All right, this is the Big Douglas Show, and my guest today from Pro Football Network is Matt Valdonavos. Matt, how are you? Quickly, did I butcher you? Did I butcher you there at the end?
Just a little bit. It's Valdovinos.
Valdovinos. I went Valdonavos. Okay. All right.
Um,
Well, I'm sorry about that.
no worries, no
I was
worries.
taking a risk. How are you today?
I'm doing great. I'm excited. I can't believe it's barely the time that it is. I've been awake all morning. I'm so excited. I'm just like buzzing with anticipation.
We'll get to these mock drafts. We're going to compare and contrast today, but Aaron Rodgers, once out. I mean, Tim Tebow to play tight end today is crazy.
It is the craziest draft day I've ever seen so far, and it's not even the draft yet.
That's right. That's right. What would you be willing to package together if you're Washington to get Aaron Rodgers? Let's say you can do it. Or are you not
19.
interested?
No, I'm very interested. I'm very motivated to get that done. 1951, either of the thirds, next year's first, next year's second, probably another third or another first or second, and maybe even a player if that's what they really, really want. I think Aaron Rodgers is the pinnacle of NFL quarterback play. I think you're a genuine Super Bowl contender starting tomorrow. As soon as Aaron Rodgers is officially your quarterback, you are a genuine Super Bowl contender. I go into the year thinking it's Super Bowl or bust. So, I mean, I'm paying whatever I have to pay because ultimately that's what you're trying to do, right? The end goal is to go win a Super Bowl.
Anybody on the team except for Chase Young and probably McLaurin, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
I don't see it happening, but boy, you know what it will mean is that Jordan Love pick was just disastrous because that's why we're here, right? I mean, other than bad drafting, that Jordan Love pick is why we're here. I have to imagine.
Yeah, I think my only understanding is that maybe the Packers viewed or knew this may be coming, and that's why they made the Jordan Love pick. So I do think that it could have been maybe vice versa. This is what caused the Jordan Love pick, and now we're here because they anticipated to be here eventually. We won't know for sure, but I think either way, they're happy that they have him right now. If it means if Aaron Rodgers just doesn't want to be there anymore.
Yeah. All right, let's get to this draft here. We'll start with Jacksonville at one. I think we both have Lawrence.
Yeah, I mean, best quarterback prospect in a decade, pretty easy. Urban Meyer's going to go get his guy.
That gets us to the Jets at two. I'm assuming we both have Wilson.
Zach Wilson, yep. Joe Douglas identified.
Does it surprise you? We have had no conversation about Wilson for 2 months now. We just assumed it's him now. I got to tell you, that surprises me a little bit. Not that they like him at two, but that we haven't had any conversation about why he's two.
Mm-hmm. I mean, personally, like I knew my quarterback rankings a couple months ago, very early into 2021. And so I could imagine that the Jets, when they were at two, they kind of put everything together and said, you know what, this is the guy I think we're really, really going to target. And everyone kind of just heard that. They weren't real secretive about it. So we were all just kind of like, okay, I guess Wilson's the pick now. And I apologize if you can hear that. But with Wilson, it's just they identified him early. They really, really want to go, they want to bring him into this San Francisco-esque offense that Robert Saleh is going to implement and roll with him moving forward.
I have Jones at third. What say you?
I think it's going to be Lance based on everything. He's also recently become the favorite to go third. I think it could be either or. I still think Justin Fields has an off chance to be the selection as well. But I've expected it to be Lance for a little over a month now. I'm just going to continue moving with that. My gut hasn't really wavered. Yeah, we're getting all this information, and it very well could be any of these guys. I just think it's going to be Lance personally.
So if that's the case, then I would suggest that Jones tumbles.
I agree. I think he could fall pretty far down. Yeah, right. I think he could fall all the way down into that late first potentially. I think he could go 15. I think he could go to the Broncos wherever. I even think if he was there and Washington didn't move up at 19, they would consider him. I think Chicago would consider him. Pittsburgh at 24, right? So I think there's definitely potential spots. But I think I'm almost positive if he's not going 3, he's not going top 10.
Yeah, because really that's the only Jones buzz there's been, right? Is San Francisco at 3. Because a team like the Panthers, right? I mean, is Jones appreciably better than Darnold? I would say
Yeah.
probably not. Is he appreciably better than Drew Lock? I don't know that I know
I
that
don't
for
think
sure.
not enough to warrant a top 10 selection.
That's right. And so to your point, I mean, where is it? Is it New England at 15?
Exactly. And that's
Maybe.
also my kind of that also weighs a little bit into my decision not to elect Jones at 3, because I just don't see if we are all talking about, oh, where is Mac Jones going to go if the 49ers don't take him at 3? Why would they have spent multiple three first round picks to go up to 3 and take him, right? That just doesn't seem like logical dealing. Now, you can make the case, oh, it's to go get their guy. But for me, if we're all talking about, oh, where would Lance even go anyways if they don't take him? I think that does kind of push into the idea that maybe they wouldn't have moved up to 3 to go get Mac Jones.
Yeah, it'll be fascinating.
Definitely. That's when the draft starts, is when San Francisco's on the clock.
I agree. And I don't think the majority of people felt that way until like yesterday.
Pretty recently, yep.
Yeah. All right. At 4, I have Pitts. I assume you do as well.
Yeah, I think they'll take Trey Lance if he's there. But because I have San Francisco taking Lance, I do expect Pitts to be the pick. I also want to say, make sure you watch out. This could be a spot that Miami moves up from 6 to 4 because they really, really love Kyle Pitts too. So that's just something to keep an eye on.
Okay. All right. We'll do that. They're going to have other than 6, though, I'd suggest they have a hard time finding a trade partner, which is why they end up sitting there with Pitts. Right?
I agree. Yeah, I don't think anyone's going to move up to 4 for a quarterback, just because I think that teams realize that Jones and Fields will probably start to fall out of the top 10 a little bit into that. Well, not out of the top 10, but will fall down the top 10 into that 7, 8, 9 range. So I do think that if Lance is going 3, Pitts, Cincinnati, Miami are all going to be that trio of picks, and they're just going to make it. So yeah, I have Pitts going 4.
Okay. Cincinnati, I have Jamar Chase.
I do as well. I think it's a lock now. I feel
too.
as comfortable with this pick as I do with the Lawrence and Wilson picks. The Cincinnati coaching staff views him very highly. They view him as a generational level talent of Julio.
And so does Burrow.
Side. So yeah, exactly. And you get that college teammate. They think that in Zach Taylor's offense, they're going to have to put up points, right? Because the defense isn't great. So they decide that they want to go get Jamar Chase and round out that unit.
And do you agree with this? It also, part of that is the tackle is deep enough that they can get it in the second round. Value better at the receiver that high than the tackle, or no, you don't agree?
I don't think so. I think Penny's just the best prospect overall of the tackles and receivers of either class, pretty comfortably for me. I don't love the idea of Chase at 5 anyways. And on top of that, I also think that it's a very, very good wide receiver class. I think you get a guy like maybe a Terrace Marshall with the Bengals 2nd round pick. I think you get a guy like a Kadarius Toney or Rondale Moore, who don't necessarily do the exact same things that Chase or Marshall do, but are still electric playmakers and who I think would still fit well in that offense. So in my opinion, pairing Penei Sewell and any receiver you can get in the top of the 2nd round is better value than Chase and any offensive tackle. Cincinnati just doesn't view it that way.
Interesting if they are listening to Burrow's opinion on decisions like that, even just a little bit, when it sounds like they're premier quarterbacks that have been in the league for a long time, complaining that they're not getting that same treatment. So I think that's interesting. Okay, at 7, Miami, I've got Waddle there.
I think I thought so. I have Smith in my mock, but over the past 24 hours, it's starting to sound like it might be Waddle. I also think they are a potential spot to trade back. I do think that their win, teams looking up for a quarterback, that's when the clock kind of starts, right? And so if quarterbacks don't go top 4, but I do think that it'll probably be Waddle at this point. I know they really, really like Pitts. So if Atlanta goes quarterback, I feel confident that this pick will be Pitts, but they'll also be looking to trade back.
So if the pick is not Pitts at 4, you think Cincinnati still takes
Chase? I think that's a lock.
Pitts.
I think that's a lock regardless. Okay. I think they would take Chase if they had the number 1 pick.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. That gets us to Detroit, where I have Penei Sewell penciled in.
Yeah, this one's tricky. I think this is also a prime candidate for trading. I think they could take Jalen Waddle if he's here. Penei Sewell would make sense as well. I also know that they really, really like Micah Parsons. Here, because I had Devontae Smith going 6 at Philadelphia, I actually had Washington trading up to here, and I think this is really, really possible too. I also think Washington might move up to 8 or New England. But in my mock, I had Washington moving up here for Fields, but there's a number of routes that can go here.
I did some broad stroke trades here just on what ifs, only for us really, but I think Washington, I had them at 8 as a candidate.
Yeah, exactly. I think 7, 8, and 9, I think are all possibilities Washington could trade up to.
Okay. Yep. I have, if not Fields at 8 with Carolina, I have them taking Slater.
Denver or Carolina?
No, Carolina.
Yeah,
Carolina.
I would agree. I think Rayshon Slater's a picker. I think Penny Sewell's here. He's the picker. They also really, really like J.C. Horn is the other guy. All 3 of them are in contention to go here. They want tackle or cornerback help if they can't find a trade partner.
Okay. That gets us to 9 at Denver. On my mock, Trey Lance is still available, so that's the pick there, whether Denver makes it or not.
I think they would take Trey Lance for sure. It sounds like they're not so enamored with Justin Fields. If Slater's on the board, I expect him to be the pick. If not, I expect them to trade back. They also really, really like so Slater's their top guy, right? That's their top target. They don't expect Sewell to be there. Don't expect them to go cornerback. I think they're looking to trade back. They also love Najee Harris, is someone that I've heard a lot, which is kind of perplexing to me because Melvin Gordon's there, but that's just the guy that staff really loves.
Yeah. Okay. That gets us to 10 with Dallas. I have Patrick Surtain.
I also have Patrick Surtain. This is another one, feels pretty locked in, fits what Dan Quinn wants to do defensively, former teammates with 2020 second rounder Trayvon Diggs. So just overall makes a ton of sense. Everything kind of fits in place like a puzzle piece.
11 for the Giants. I have Kwity Paye here.
Yeah, so I think they could go Kwity Paye too. Apparently, Dave Gettleman's super into Kwity Paye. I think Devontae Smith, if he's here, will also garner a lot of consideration. And they're also they're also a place where any of Gregory Rousseau could go here because I guess the NFL is much, much higher on him, as well as a Micah Parsons could go here too.
It's interesting about the Fields earlier when we talked to Pelissero last Friday. I hadn't realized this, how much teams really knocked him for transferring from Georgia and not being able to beat out Jake Fromm like that. It's still some things.
Yeah, and I think
about him, I'm surprised.
Unfortunately for Fields too, is that's like, I mean, if you compare who their careers were as far as Justin Fields at Ohio State versus Jake Fromm at Georgia, I don't think it's any question who's the better quarterback. But once Jake Fromm kind of blew up on the scene as a true freshman before Fields had gotten there and taken that team to a national championship, it was pretty unlikely that Kirby Smart was ever going to just give that job up and let the best man take it because they knew what Fromm did. And so,
they were number 2 defense in the country, and that's
exactly
all Kirby wanted to do. There's no doubt, but
I don't think Fields got the. Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely
surprised when they're not going to employ because I didn't.
Apparently it was Georgia too. So apparently Georgia was releasing a lot of just like, he couldn't beat Smart. He couldn't beat.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So apparently it was a lot of Georgia talk. It was a lot of talk coming from Georgia, the University of Georgia specifically.
Interesting. Kirby's a hater, I guess.
Maybe.
At Philadelphia, I have Devontae Smith here.
I think
they could go corner.
Yeah,
here,
absolutely.
Right?
They could go J.C. Horn if he's here. I know they like Rayshon Slater. I know they like Kwity Paye, right? So there's they feel comfortable with the options that are going to be presented here. They're also interested in moving up if the right person is there too.
The other thing, and I've asked a couple of people this, I haven't gotten a real lock on it. It's interesting because that's also a range where you'd think Washington would like to get to if you didn't have to get to 8 or 9. But how
all
often
division rivals,
right?
So that's what's interesting too is if they move up, like let's say they were to move up to 9, where Denver is, to take Fields. I'm not 100% sure, but I would definitely think it's potentially the first time in NFL history where division rivals are picking one after another consecutively in 4 picks
right
in the first round.
Yeah, right. Yeah, good one.
And and half of them wouldn't even be their original selections, right? Because the Eagles moved and then Washington was moving.
That's right. Yeah, that'd be crazy. All right. Let's see. Next is the Chargers. If indeed Carolina, if the slot there is for Fields, then I have Chargers taking Slater here.
Yeah, I think if Slater's on the board, that's who they'll go. I think they love Penny Sewell, and they've been in conversation trying to get to a spot where they can take him. Yeah. So that could be where you see the Lions or the Panthers move if maybe one of them would rather take that capital than Sewell. I also think they could take Darsaw if he's here, and both Slater. And I think they're going to take offensive tackle. I feel almost positive about that.
I do too. 14 is Minnesota. I've got Verja Tucker here. This feels like a safe pick.
Yeah, so pretty recently, this has come out as, I guess, he's their guy. So, right. I mean, I'm moving forward. I believe that I guess this is the selection. I had them taking, I believe, I had them taking Greg Newsome just because Mike Zimmer, a cornerbacks coach, has always been a fan of getting that secondary. I think Newsome is very, very highly regarded around in the NFL. But over the past 24 hours, it does start to sound like AVT's the most common name coming out of Minnesota.
The coaching that Newsome got at Northwestern goes a long way towards his stock, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think people like had him on the radar early, but scouts are in love with that guy, particularly the long arms, right? All right, let's see. Next we have, this is New England. I have Parsons here because he's still on the board.
Yeah, I think Parsons, I think Zaven Collins could be a selection here. I think they want to move up for Justin Fields. I think if Mac Jones is here, they'll consider that too. And they could even go a guy like Rashad Bateman or Devontae Smith if he were to fall this far. That would make a lot of sense as well. But yeah, I think Micah Parsons makes a ton of sense here.
On this draft, Arizona stops the slide for J.C. Horn.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I think I had them taking Gregory Rousseau. Like I said, I'm not a huge fan of Rousseau, but the NFL is very, very high on him overall. Just kind of multiple. That's what the Cardinals have drafted pretty consistently throughout the years with with Steve Keim. Guys like an Isaiah Simmons who plays multiple positions, guys like a Hassan Reddick who plays multiple positions. Gregory Rousseau would just kind of fit that inside-outside threat on that defense across from Chandler Jones.
Okay, let's see. That gets us to Las Vegas. I have them taking JOK here.
Definitely possible. They love Micah Parsons as well. Yamin Davis as well. They could definitely go linebacker. Any of those guys would fit. Washington's hoping that Parsons is on the board so that they could get JOK, or the other way around. Maybe JOK gets selected there and Parsons would fall. But yeah, I think JOK, should the board fall this way, would be the selection as well.
And to your point, if Parsons starts falling and let's say he's there at 13 or 14 and Washington hadn't moved for quarterback, that would be a natural fit.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think so. I guess there's news that Washington was looking to move up, not for a quarterback. I'm not sure how much I buy into that, but if the right guy's falling, I could definitely see them being partial to Parsons, but I also think they're just comfortable with their decisions or their opportunities for that position at 19 that they wouldn't make the move. Just because if Parsons is sliding also means there's a very good chance that JOK is sliding as well, just a little bit. So if Parsons goes 5 or if Parsons goes 17, that pushes JOK down the board a little more. And then even if JOK gets taken, I think they're comfortable taking Yamin Davis at 19 if they need to.
I do too. All right, let's see. So that's 18. Miami is at 18. I have Darrisaw off the board here.
I think they take Najee Harris here if he's on the board still.
Okay.
Yeah, they love him. Najee, the NFL loves Najee. I think this is kind of where we would see that first running back go.
Okay. I am a firm believer that you don't draft running back in the first round, period.
I am as well. But I don't run all these teams, right? It's just what I expect to happen.
Yeah.
I think the Steelers would take him if he's there at 24. I think that's the absolute floor for him. And I think 18 is probably a pretty solid ceiling.
Now, we've had more than one person on the show suggest, Najee Harris or Etienne at 19.
Yeah.
I don't see it, but we've heard it actually a couple of times. All right, and that gets us to Washington 19. The way the board plays here, I have Davis.
Yeah, I think they would take Yamin Davis here as well. Also, Trayvon Martin is the other guy. Apparently, they really, really love him.
Yeah.
Not something a lot of Washington people have talked about. I imagine there's a good chance we could be talking about it after the draft. I think it's a great fit, right? So it's not – I don't think Washington fans should be upset if one of the guys that we've consistently been talking to is the best case scenario isn't there, because like we said, that is the best case scenario. That is the board falling, us being able to go get a Justin Fields or a Trey Lance without sacrificing a lot of capital, getting a Darrisaw, getting a JOK or a Micah Parsons, right, without having them fall to 19. Those are the best case scenarios. That might not happen. Washington might have to take one of that tier 2 players in Yamin Davis, with a Trayvon Martin, with a Rashad Bateman. Those are all still really, really good players who are going to help this team and who fit what they do, and who the team is very, very high on. So I think I just want to make sure that Washington fans are prepared for a pick like that might happen, and they should still be comfortable because I still think it's a great pick overall.
Yeah, I've got a couple of buddies out there that are rooting for that pick too. I'm personally a Reeves fan. Anybody that watched the show knows that. But
I
so
mean, yeah, I like it with Reeves. I just think what Trayvon Martin brings is a little more
he's an upgrade.
versatility. Yeah,
He's an
he's a
upgrade.
level up.
Yep. Okay. All right. Let's see. So at Chicago, then I've got Jenkins.
I think Mac Jones would go here if he's still here.
Okay.
That fit kind of just makes sense. It's what they do with Andy Dalton. It would just kind of be that seam into Mac Jones at some point when Dalton inevitably falters.
Washington would not think, though, that Mac Jones provides that big of an upgrade over,
I
say,
don't think
Kyle
so.
Allen, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
I just
think
don't.
people realize they're high on Allen, right? I mean, he was
Yeah, I mean,
injured, but
Ron Rivera
they
likes
kinda
Allen,
like him.
not enough to warrant not moving up for like a guy,
Sure.
but enough to say maybe we don't want to take Mac Jones here at 19, right? And so, and when Washington took Dwayne at 16, what people don't realize is Washington really didn't have anyone on the team to say this is why we're okay passing on this quarterback, because they had Case Keenum, who was on like a 1 or 2 year deal, and they had Colt McCoy coming off an injury, right? So there really was no at all plan for quarterback for the following year, and so your hand is kind of pushed. Obviously, there were some talkings about maybe the upper management coming down and forcing a hand, but overall, like that was the position they're in. They're not in that position this year. They feel very, very comfortable about their starter this year in Ryan Fitzpatrick and the prospects of either maybe him playing another year, Kyle Allen taking another step into the system, or maybe even Taylor Heineke showing something or moving up for a guy in 2022. So they don't feel like they have to take a quarterback here. And that's the big thing for them.
What a beautiful place to be.
Exactly.
Like
Exactly.
that's the fancy neighborhood.
This is the opposite of QB purgatory, where it's like, okay, we've set ourselves up for success. We're not constantly missing out on a quarterback, and that's why we're bad. We were bad because we didn't have anything. We've now set ourselves up to put a quarterback in a position to succeed.
Fitzpatrick was going to take Miami to the playoffs last year until
he would have.
I'll keep saying it until I can't say it anymore. At 21, I got Indy taking my guy from Georgia, Ojulari.
Yeah, I think with Aziz, the NFL is going to be kind of hit or miss on him. I think he fits what some teams want to do. He fits what he doesn't fit what some teams want to put him as like a strong side edge rusher. I think the Colts maybe will take a tackle here. Just because they have that big hole, but they are in a position to take the best player available. And I think Aziz could be in contention for that.
He's freaky bendy.
Very explosive.
Yeah. Tennessee, I have Zaven Collins.
I think they'll take Tevin Jenkins for right tackle to replace Isaiah Wilson. Zaven Collins fits that defense in that Patriots mold.
I had Jenkins off the board already, which is why I didn't have him.
Yeah, understandable. I've also been told Elijah Moore is very highly regarded in that
receiver from
Ole Miss. Yeah, is very highly regarded by that. I don't have him in the first round of this mock, but I guess there's a ton of heat coming from that.
The Jets, I wasn't sure which way to go there. I went Phillips.
Yeah, I think they could go edge rusher. I think they would have liked Tevin Jenkins. I also think this is a spot that Najee Harris could go to. I think Travis Etienne can go here. Yeah, so there's definitely a bunch of options. I do think that an edge rusher would make a ton of sense just for Robert Saleh. We know what he likes to do. We know he likes to get after the passers. So that, I mean, put it all together. I think him, there's a couple of edge guys who I'm not really sure how the NFL is going to evaluate the tiers of these edge guys. I don't know who's going to be the first one off the board. So it's just, I think with these 10 to 30s or 22 to 32 picks, it's not necessarily, I think this is the edge rusher they're going to pursue, but more so, I just think they could take an edge rusher, and this is just the one that trickles down based on the NFL's flavoring.
Incredibly poor year for edge rushers.
Yeah, I don't have
shockingly bad
defensive line in general. I put out my rankings today. I don't have a single first round grade among any defensive line player, any interior defensive lineman or edge rusher.
It's wild. At 24, I have Pittsburgh taking Leatherwood.
Yeah, I think they could go tackle. I have them taking Javonte Williams. I think they really, really like.
I love Javonte Williams.
I do too. He's my RB2. I think he fits what Pittsburgh really, really likes in running backs. He's kind of that poor man's Najee Harris. I think they're very, very high on Najee. So if the board falls like this, I think they could take him there. And I think it would be a little bit of a surprise to some people.
His comp is Nick Chubb, right?
Some guys have said both Chubb and Kareem Hunt, just with that body contact control.
Yeah.
But I mean, I just love hard runner, stays up, consistently gets extra yardage, very, very good vision, underrated pass catcher. I think it would be a great spot for that fit too.
He's still on the board. So at 25 for Jacksonville is where I have Harris coming off the board.
Okay, I have Trayvon Martin going here. I think they could look. I'm not entirely sure how they're going to. I think for the running back position, they'll either target one of the top guys here in this first round, or early in the second round if one of the top guys is there with their first pick. Otherwise, they might just not go running back at all until late day 3 with James Robinson there, right? So it's really just either get an obvious upgrade over him or just don't go anyone at all. And so I definitely think if it's not in these first 2 rounds, it might not just be, they might not take a running back.
I was thinking about this the other day, and I'm curious what you think maybe the league thinks about it. You know, I think Washington's probably pretty happy that they spent that extra second to move back up for Sweat and get that extra 5th-year option. You think that's something teams will start doing more often?
Yeah, I mean, that's a common thing we see. So like Baltimore did it with Lamar Jackson.
Right.
It's not an uncommon thing for teams to want to move up into that late first round, go get that. I think Washington, like you said, did it. And I think it's more likely going to be for players at premium positions. So quarterback, edge rusher, offensive tackle, cornerback, positions like that that are consensusly viewed as the most impactful to winning.
26 for the Browns. I have Rashad Bateman here.
So Kwity Paye was still on the board. I had them taking Kwity Paye. I think they definitely could go Rashad Bateman. I think they love Rashad Bateman. There's been some smoke around linebackers. I'm not 100% sure. I also don't know if they take Rashad Bateman. I wonder if this makes Odell Beckham Jr. movable.
No, I think so. That's kind of why I had.
So I don't
to move on.
Yeah, so I don't have any direct information on whether or not that's accurate, but I just think it is a possibility, and that would be something to keep an eye on.
Yep. Let's see. For the Ravens, I do have more coming off the board here.
Yeah, I think they'll probably just address their defense. I think once Bateman goes, there's not really anyone they're really going to want with this first rounder because they'll have a first rounder later. I think here we could see them go defensive end. I had them taking Jason Owe, physical freak, fits that 3-4 that they like to run. Just get a guy to pin your ears back and go get after that quarterback.
The next pick is the Saints. I have Newsome coming off the board here.
Yeah, that fits a lot. They're interested in a quarterback. News today broke that they were looking into moving into the top 10. That maybe could be, I mean, I have no idea what that would be for. We'll see. I had them taking Yamin Davis here. He was still on the board. So just a real easy fit. Move him next to DeMario Davis and let them do their thing.
29 Packers. I have Kadarius Toney here. I don't like Toney that much, but my understanding is they do.
Yeah, so I have Kadarius Toney going here as well. I think Rondale Moore could fit here. I think it's just I don't really know who they're going to take, right? I don't have a ton of news coming out of Green Bay. They might be looking to trade up for a quarterback based on their Rodgers news. We'll see. But they have Jordan Love there, so we'll see. I had Kadarius Toney here. I also think Rondale Moore is the other fit that would make sense, similar player to Toney.
Yeah. I said Elijah Moore. Actually, for that Ravens pick, that's who I had was Rondale Moore.
Gotcha.
Let's see. That puts the Bills next. I have Moore coming off here.
I have them taking Travis Etienne.
Okay. That would make sense.
Yeah, I think they just want to go get that alpha guy, eat up some yards, make them add a little more duality to their offense, and give them a real shot at contending for the AFC with the Chiefs.
Baltimore, I have taking Farley here. Farley.
That'd be terrifying. Yeah, Farley's an interesting case because
you think the medicals are not going to check out on him, huh?
So I'm not 100% sure, but I think he'll be consideration for 19. So I do think that I think there's definitely possibility he goes in the first. And I think it's still a very strong chance he'll go in the first. His agent seems to think he's going to be a top 20 pick still, which would lead me to believe that they should at least feel comfortable enough that he'll get drafted in this first round. I had them taking Alex Leatherwood, just replace that right tackle that they lost in Orlando Brown Jr.
And I think your point there is Washington could certainly be in on corner at 19.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, there's just because William Jackson got signed does not
I think there's very few positions that I don't believe they would.
That's right.
Consider at 19. I think running back's one of them, and I think defensive line is the other. And really, I think everything else.
Because
and strong safety, I guess, but you're not going to draft one in this class anyways.
Well, but to that point, I keep hearing JOK at 19 a lot, but isn't that what we have a lot of already?
So in my opinion, I love the fit with JOK. I've talked about this a little bit. Landon Collins probably won't be on this team past this year. I would imagine this is probably, unless he has a defensive player of the year type of revival, which is pretty unlikely given he's coming off a major injury. And so Cam Curl, superstar, he's going to be your strong safety, play up at the box, very, very good in run coverage, and shine a lot in man coverage, which I wasn't expecting. JOK, instead of playing that safety, instead of being the safety that kind of blends as a linebacker up in the box, he would be a linebacker who more blends to the safety. He's gonna be a guy who starts in the box, but transitions to wherever you need him to play. He's going to provide an elite matchup nightmare. He's going to be a guy who you say, okay, their best receiver against us is going to be their tight end. Go neutralize him. Their running back, we're playing the Panthers this year. Christian McCaffrey's a problem. Go neutralize him. That's what they're expecting JOK to do. Whereas Cam Curl is more of a, okay, you're our safety. We expect you to be able to cover this nickel wide receiver. But if they run the stretch here, you're going to have to be that edge defender. Whereas JOK is more linebacker to safety, their safety to linebacker. And
so he plays Will in the
yeah, he would play the Will.
Viper in the 4-2-5 then?
Yeah. So randomly though, I was listening to their press conference and Rivera was referring to it as their Sam, their strong side instead. So I guess they like to play their strong side backer towards the slot receiver or whoever's lined up on the inside is the primary target. Which would just be a flip. It's strange typically because your Sam is usually your bigger play on the line of scrimmage. But it's the same thing, right? It's a Will in a traditional defense. They just term it as their Sam.
And I'm glad that you did that because we had Sam Fortier on yesterday and he said that. And I guess I didn't realize that was part of the press conference.
Yes.
I was thinking, I was like, oh boy, mental gaffe, and I almost corrected him and I didn't. So I owe Sam an apology for thinking that he didn't have it right because I didn't realize that's
a confusing thing. I haven't known how to post it on Twitter because I don't want to say Sam, because now you're using a term that the public typically associates with a strong side, a Zaven Collins, Micah Parsons, right? Whereas he's doing the opposite. He's playing that off-ball weak side. But I guess it's just their own terminology. They want to dub that the Sam. They said the verb almost verbatim. What he said is, we wanted Shaq Thompson to come and be our Sam, someone who could spread off and play the nickel. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense, coach, but I guess that's what we're rolling with. So that's how they're going to call their defense
here, because I didn't know. Yeah.
But JOK on that team though is the Sam, and Jack Del Rio is cover 1, cover 0, and it's going to be. I think it's a really, really good fit. I do think the line is blurred between linebacker and safety, and we do have people like that on the team, but with the way the NFL is going, we're going to need stuff like that. You're going to need players who can play multiple positions because that's what they're doing. When you have guys like Kyle Pitts who's coming in, is he a tight end? Is he a wide receiver? Do you have guys like Kadarius Toney, Rondale Moore consistently in every single draft class who's starting in the backfield, is lining up in the slot, then is back in the backfield and is now out on the boundary, and you have to expect your linebacker to be able to cover them in every single position there. That's what JOK provides.
Yes, and they like the kid they drafted from Michigan too, right? His name
Khaliki Hudson.
Yeah,
and he made some plays last year. And I think it's definitely, if they don't address it in the, like if they don't get a JOK, a Yamin Davis, and I think Davis could even play the Mike if they really wanted him to, as well as guys like Jabril Cox. And Pete Werner, if none of those guys are drafted by Washington, I do think it would be Hudson's job to lose, as well as Landon Collins would probably just play most of those snaps as well.
Right. Okay. And then Tampa Bay rounds us out. I have them taking Barmore.
I've been taking Phillips. Yeah, I think so. Barmore's, I guess some say he could go as high as the top 15. I didn't even have him going in the first round. It's just really hard for me to judge his value just because the NFL seems so low on this interior defensive line class. Yeah. I had them taking Jalen Phillips, just a really, really high. I think they could go either. I think they could also target a safety. I think they could target maybe even a young quarterback. They've talked. They really wanted to lock in one of their dudes, and they loved Trask Mills or Mond, and they decided that, hey, this is the guy we want to have behind Tom. I wouldn't put it past them because maybe they assume that guy's just not going to make it there to 64.
And if he pans out, it's ultimate value.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Exactly. They won the Super Bowl. It doesn't matter. That, honestly, in my opinion, Tampa Bay taking a quarterback at 32 is better value than Kansas City got taking a running back at 32.
Oh, I'm with you. I'm with you. That's no doubt about it. Well, we got through all 32. What is your best guess on 19?
So maybe that they don't pick 19.
Well,
Hmm.
that's fine. So let's start here then. Better chance the team moves up, stays where they are, or moves down.
I'll say I'm 50-50. I feel almost 50-50 on staying at 19 or trading up, but I don't think that that's necessarily accurate. That's just my gut. I'll
Yeah.
say 60% that they no, I'll say 65% that they stay at 19, 25% they move up for a quarterback, namely Justin Fields, 10% they trade back.
And that's the guy. Fields.
That's their guy, in my opinion. Now, I'm
Mine too.
not.
I've heard that
I'm
several times.
yeah, I've been on. I promise I've been. And if they do move up for Fields, I will be the most arrogant Washington fan tonight, just because that's been. We have all of these paid insiders, all of these guys in the locker room, and it's just been this like, yeah, we don't really know who Washington likes, but I watched the tape, Doug, I promise. And so I do think that Justin Fields would be their guy, but if not, I think sitting at 19, I think there's a ton of options that they really, really feel comfortable. And I know that you and I both feel really comfortable with.
Yeah, no, I think there's a premier player left at 19.
Yeah.
Just because of particularly if the quarterbacks go early. Although I will say this, I thought was interesting. You were more generous with your first round picks. When we had Pelissero on, he said the league usually has 22 first round grades that every team has a consensus on. And this year it's more like 17. And that's why there's more of this urge for teams to be moving up,
Aggressive.
even if it's a couple of spots. Yeah. So be interesting to see the movement. It feels like every year we hear about movement and there's some, but not a ton.
Mhm.
But supposedly the picks for next year are
Or
super
gold,
valuable.
apparently. So yeah,
right. Yeah.
when I made that trade for Justin Fields, there was a lot of information that's been released since, right? The NFL is not as high on Justin Fields. We know that now. At the time that I made the trade, I was still under the impression that the NFL maybe did view Justin Fields in the same light as Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, and Mac Jones. Maybe they don't. I'm not 100% sure, but it sounds like Trey Lance has started to separate himself a little bit. And it sounds like Justin Fields may not have been in contention for that third pick. Again, I don't know that that's correct. Apparently, he was in contention for the first pick while they were doing that process for Jacksonville. But on top of that, I was not made aware. No one had told me. No sources came out and were like, hey, Matt, we think next year's picks are real, real valuable. So Tom Villasero hit me with that one. But I do think that maybe it wouldn't cost 3 firsts. Maybe it would be 2 firsts, 2 seconds and change. But I mean, at the end of the day, right, it's just, I think the idea is more so they traded up. Washington fans wanted to, I had to make the trade able to suffice for both fan bases. Because if I took off that last first round pick, it would have been a lot of Detroit just being like, there's no way this happens. Like, it's not possible at all. So I was like, all right, let me give this. And then it's 50-50. Washington fans were 50-50, loving it, hating it. Detroit fans were 50-50, loving it, hating, which means at the end of the day, it was 50-50. Half the people loved it, half the people hated it, which means I had to have done something correct.
Well, we agreed on a bunch of these, which probably means we won't get any of them, right?
Yeah, right.
Matt, it was a lot of fun. Tell the folks at home where they can catch you and what you got coming up.
Please go follow me on Twitter at MV Scouting. I would like to have a lot of fun there. I also write for Pro Football Network. I'll be doing all of the draft grades for a couple of the teams. We're also hopefully getting next year's mock sim up and going here pretty soon. We've been doing some meetings for that as well. So if Washington fans after this first round, you want to go take a look at that, that would be cool too. But overall, I mean, I just want everyone to have a great draft. Enjoy everything you guys do, and we'll see what happens with Washington.
No doubt. Matt, we appreciate you coming on, man. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you so much.